guess you're like the other runaway teens, trying to flee Petria. It's really dangerous to cross the border. You have to be careful with the people you meet on the way, believe me. Don't go fainting on me. But each decision could shape your destiny and Petria's too. Okay, I guess it's time for you to hit the road. I hope you're ready.
Hello gamers, today I'm checking out a game that made the rounds on YouTube when it first came out and did very well due to the fact that the game lets you have a lot of perceived control on how you go about doing things. However, if you do act stupid or do the wrong thing, that can end with you being arrested and or killed. This game being Road 96, a first-person adventure roleplay game that has you take control of several hitchhiking teens, trying to escape an authoritarian dictator that rules over the great country of Petria, a country that is on the eve of a very important election and the 10-year anniversary of a major terrorist attack. Now, one of the things that I noticed whilst on my adventures through Petria, and I don't know if it's just me, but the art style reminds me so much of the Life is Strange games. And now that I sit here and think about it, it's not just the art style, but the song the game plays a lot, a song by the name of The Road. It feels like the song would just be perfect in a Life is Strange game, it being that kind of indie folkish pop. Like a song I'm pretty sure I have mentioned before, that being that to all of you American girls are from the movies. No one can tell where your heart is at. God, I love that song, so it's such a good song. And back when I first played Life is Strange 1, it was not the type of game I would usually play, as back then I was more of a FPS kid only playing games like Call of Duty. But the song at the start of this game convinced me to give it a try, and well, now I play a lot more games like Life is Strange, and I haven't played COD in years. And the only competitive shooter I end up playing these days is Rainbow Six. Wait, what was I talking? Oh, it's alright, I wasn't maybe talking about Call of Duty. And just one more comparison between Life is Strange and Road 96 I want to bring up is that of the character from Road 96 you meet called Zoe, who is very much like Chloe. The names even sound similar. All the way down to the looks, down to the fact that both their dads have some kind of position of power within the story. Well, Chloe's stepdad, but still counts. But that whole segment was just a tad bit off topic, so back to the core of the video, that being Road 96. And the first thing I want to mention directly about the game is its controls. Now, they use the normal WASD controls and mouse controls. However, I don't know if it was just me, and I also really can't prove it was happening apart from my word, but the controls seemed delayed and like more, I guess, smooth and continuous than they should have been, which I got used to whilst playing it for a while in a singular session, but every time I came back to the game, it would take the same amount of time to get used to the weird just sort of delay it had. But as I briefly mentioned at the start of the video, this game has you playing as several teens, and they all have a little part to play in the story, mainly pushing the game's named characters in a certain direction depending on how you play the game. The overarching story of the game is about an election happening in Petria, a country ruled by the tyrannical dictator named Tyrak, who has done everything in his power to stay in power, including setting off explosions 10 years ago and blaming it on the militant group called the Black Brigades. In the game's current time, that being 1996, Tyrak is running against Senator Flores, a very much left-leaning leader. She promises to bring an end to the run of Tyrak and move the country towards a more greener future. However, with the country being very oil-rich, she is fighting a losing battle, and the election will most likely be rigged anyways. Throughout the game, your runaways have three main directions to push the other characters towards. That being the most boring one, which I didn't even think about doing whilst playing the game, was more indifference towards it, where you basically support the incumbent leader. Next would be the more peaceful of the last two options, and that being supporting Flores and believing in the fact that the election will not be rigged and that she will remain her same way once she gets power and not corrupted. like what you see a lot of times when one evil leader replaces another and just ends up more evil than the last. And the last option is basically what the IRA did. Blow up stuff and cause a lot of panic till you get what you want. As I mentioned, your playable character doesn't really do much of anything, more pushing characters in certain directions. So, who are these people that you are pushing in directions? And first up, we will start with those who are more aligned with the current government, that being a character by the name of Fanny, a cop who is clearly, due to her being a cop, aligned with the government, but at sometimes is unwilling to do everything that is asked of her, and maybe is a little disillusioned with the beliefs of Tyrak. Next up for the government cronies is Sonia, a local news anchor in Petria, and at least from what it seems, someone who is very famous and also self-centered, and possibly even has the air of Tyrak himself. And that is really all for the people who are directly linked to the government. So next up, we will be going through the opposing end of that line, that being the Black Brigades. And one of the group's main leaders is a truck driver by the name of John, who also goes by Papa Bear or Big Bear. And he believes that the group has gone a little too violent in the recent years. He also loses his girlfriend in the attack in 86 that Tyrak blames on them. But of course, Tyrak ended up doing it. And he is also dating Fanny, at least over the CB radio. However, Fanny and John are linked in more ways than one, and that being through the character of Alex, a young boy who is also just so happens to be a genius. He is on the road searching for information on his bio parents, Fanny being his adopted mother, and John and Alex working with each other on Black Brigade things here and there. The next person is that previously mentioned almost carbon copy of Chloe from Life is Strange, just a little bit nicer. That being Zoe, who ends up tasked with delivering a message to the outside world, at least with the options I choose throughout the game. Which I probably should have mentioned by now, but the options I ended up picking was leading towards the way that we should trust Flores to fix the nation and just vote Flores in the election. But it's also important to state that Zoe had a relationship to the government as well, as her dad is the Minister of Oil. In a country like Petria, I would believe that to be a very important and powerful position to hold. So there are 2 or 3 other characters, depending on how you look at it, who don't really fit into any of those characters. The first being a man who works for the local taxi company, Happy Taxi. His name being Jared. His daughter died during the 89 attack, and he blames the brigades and Sonia for the death of his daughter. And throughout the game, it is his sole mission to track down and kill everyone he blames for his daughter's death. And lastly, this is the 1 or 2, depending on how you look at it, is the iconic duo of Stan and Mitch, the criminal group who seem to be obsessed with Sonia, and they are also trying to protect Sonia from someone who is trying to kill her, at least they believe. That would obviously end up being Jared, but they didn't know that at the time. You meet Stan and Mitch throughout the many crimes trying to find out who Jared is. You also find out that Stan and Mitch just so happen to be related to Sonia, so they're not actually obsessed with her, they are brothers and sister. But I'm not going to go any deeper into the story, as you should play it for yourself, as obviously the decisions I made may not align with the decisions you made, and you could have got a completely different ending. Also though, this game is 100% worth checking out. One of those reasons that you should check it out and makes it worth checking out is that this game is very replayable, with lots of different little decisions you could do which gradually build up to a different and bigger effect on the story than you may even think at the time. And not only that, but on your first playthrough, you will come across doors and other things that you cannot open due to not having the ability to lockpick or hack, which you pick up quite late in your first playthrough, or at least I did. Therefore, giving you lots of different things to do on your New Game Plus runs to change up the story, and also you can meet people in different ways and have completely different scenes and thoughts on their way of life, therefore changing how you would react with them in each encounter. But however, also you do get the same encounters as well, like the exact same, completely nothing different out of them at all as well, which is a little bit of a downside. So with this video wrapping up, this makes this like the 5th game I have played in a row that I have very little bad things to say about. That's if you count Saints Row 1 from my recently released Volition video and Sons of Anarchy The Prospect, which I didn't even play. However, I can tell you that this game very much adds to that streak. With only a couple downsides in the story, I feel maybe could have been better done, but that's more of a personal thing. Like, I would have enjoyed if they went deep into the politics and history of Petria, because like I'm imagining that this is an ex-Soviet or ex-Soviet bloc country, most likely in the region above Turkey or over in Asia. But then you get to thinking, what is the super free and good country that all the teens are trying to escape to? Who knows? Anyway, so that's just some of the things I think about while playing games like this. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video almost as much as I enjoyed playing Road 96. And I'll hopefully see you in the next video, which will 100% continue the streak of good games I'm playing. So I will see you then.
The uprising that started that day spread to most of Petria, ensuring a fair, democratic election. Flores won by a landslide and promised to repeal much of what Tyrak had done. Tyrak was arrested and tried for his crimes. The iron pits were closed, and the wall came down as well. Though it's far too early to tell what the future of my country holds, for the first time in many years, there is hope. And that, at the very least, is a good place to start.